We head out to the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline and welcome in Ashley Bastock of Cleveland.com. She joins us every single Wednesday here at 3:20. Ashley, welcome back to the whole show here.
Thanks, guys. I will say it's an off season with the Browns, so nothing can ever be normal, right?
Yeah, but I'd like it if it was. Right? Would it be nice if it was just like logical?
Maybe, but it would be boring, right? We're not used to boring.
I'll take that chance. I'll tell you. Would you
want to risk that one?
Yeah. I feel like I'm pretty entertaining no matter whether it's good or bad football here.
Yeah, we can find stories as long as we feel good about the football team.
So with that, Ashley, what do you think? Again, the report here is Jesse Minter very likely to be the new guy in Baltimore. He's one of the succulent six that we heard getting second-round interviews from the Browns earlier this week. Then, of course, Mike McDaniel withdrew from his in-person interview today to take the Chargers OC job. And then there were four. How do we feel about those four?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? And first of all, let me say, like, Jesse Minter to the Ravens, like, to me, just makes sense. Ironically, he comes from that Harbaugh tree. Obviously, he's been with Jim Harbaugh for a while. But the Ravens ultimately, I think more than anything, like, they need somebody to vibe with Lamar, right? But they need somebody to fix that defense more than anything. That defense the last couple of years has just not been good. So I was very much like, I'm not quite sure why the Browns are interested in so many of these younger defensive guys who play 3-4s, because that's just not their scheme, and it's not the scheme they're built for on defense. But I think the really interesting wrinkle over the last 24, 48 hours is Grant Udinski in Jacksonville, who seemed like the Browns had really cornered him. We know they're going to do an in-person interview with him this week. But now Buffalo has come calling and seems interested. So I am really fascinated by that and what this Buffalo job opening does amidst the open jobs that are left and what the ripple effects end up being, if at all. But just because the idea of working with Josh Allen is probably the most appealing job out there right now. So a guy like Grant Udinski wasn't getting much buzz really outside of Cleveland. Now to have interest there, I'm curious what that does, because outside of him then you have Nate Scheelhaase, who, you know, we'll see what happens with the Rams and if they make it to the Super Bowl and if that delays things. How interested the Browns really are in him is another really, I think, pressing question. But, you know, I said yesterday, like, the interesting thing about this search is these external guys that they were courting. You see so many. There were like three names that I'll throw Mike McDaniel in there with those two, of younger, offensive-minded options. So I'm like, is that what they really want? And are they going to start running out of those options in theory coming up here? But it's certainly interesting. And then, of course, the other two guys being left, Jim Schwartz and then Todd Monken, who former Ravens OC, former Browns OC here in 2019 under Freddie Kitchens. So he had his second interview, and Jim Schwartz had his second interview earlier in the week. But we'll see where all this goes.
Will they add Sean McDermott to the list?
You know, I think my colleague Mary Kay Cabot has been reporting that, you know, they're potentially interested, and we'll see. But I don't know. I'm really curious to see what he does. I just keep thinking, like, is he going to be in line for that Steelers job or something at the end of the day and torment the Browns in some capacity? But, you know, it's interesting because they also liked him back before they hired Hugh Jackson, you know, when Andrew Berry was here, not in the GM role, but was still in the front office. Like, he and Paul DePodesta really liked Sean McDermott. So that is an interesting potential addition, and I'm curious to see if it kind of transpires anymore or if we're really down to these, like, five or so guys.
Ashley, it's been interesting to see the reaction with McDaniel, withdrawing from the second interview yesterday, because there are really two clear reads. There is, he just wasn't interested in the head coaching job, and he just decided to go take an OC job instead, which, in fairness, he would have been doing to the Ravens and Raiders jobs as well. Or he got wind that he wasn't going to get any one of these three head coaching jobs and took the best OC job he could find. Which way do you lean towards? And if he turned down the Browns, is it maybe because the job just isn't that appealing this go-round?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing because we don't know. Like, we don't know why he pulled his name out. Was it, I mean, the first thing you said there, Nick, which is kind of what I'm wondering, like, did he just feel like he wasn't going to wind up getting either of those 3 head coaching jobs at this point and said, look, I just want to take a year at least, go take an OC job and reevaluate. But I mean, there is a world, and we have talked about it like this, like, is he going to turn out to be the sort of canary in a coal mine? But I think why I'm leaning more towards maybe he just felt like he didn't really have a chance at any of these jobs and would rather be an OC and work with Jim Harbaugh, because there were other options he had. It wasn't like he only pulled out of the Browns head coaching search and then was still trying to compete for that Vegas job or that Baltimore job. Like, he just went and took an OC job. So we don't know is the caveat, but you do wonder a guy like that, like if it really was just like, I don't know about this opportunity. Like, for me, it would obviously be just the uncertainty at quarterback that would potentially be playing a factor there. I mean, especially when you're an offensive head coach, but I think in general, when you're talking about a head coaching job, at any team, the quarterback situation is going to be really important. Now, the Ravens and the Raiders have different situations than the Browns. So, I don't know. Did he look at all of that and just say, I don't really think I'm going to be in line for any of these. I'm just going to pull my name now and go take this job in L.A. before somebody beats me to it. Like, I would guess that is the most likely, but, you know, that's just guesswork at this point for sure.
All right, what is it you think the fans that is? What do you think they love about Grant Udinski? Is it anything that Udinsky actually does?
I think a big part of it is that 3-minute clip of him talking about zone coverages, right? I think a big part of it on Brown's Twitter is fans seeing that clip and liking him. But, I mean, I do think overall it's just more so, I would guess, the idea of having a younger, innovative, offensive mind in the driver's seat. And look, I think Browns fans know the biggest issue with this team is the offense. So I think a lot of them look at it and say, why would you hire a defensive-minded coach at all when the offense is the bigger problem? Like, I could see the thinking, though. I mean, I've heard from fans who are like, well, if it's Jim Schwartz, that's fine as long as you get a really good OC. Like, I think there is a world in which that exact scenario is not a disaster and is not punting. Like, I think there would be some benefits to that. But the bottom line is you have to have that innovative offensive mind in some capacity. And I think people look at what he did. I think they look at that little internet clip. I think they hear the stories. They hear how Trevor Lawrence talks about him. They look at Jacksonville's season, and he's the name that sort of stands out. And I think him more than Nathan Scheelhaase right now, just because, like, Grant Udinski is in that coordinator role. Nathan Scheelhaase has not been a coordinator, but he comes obviously directly from working with Sean McVay. But I think that's why Grant Udinski, of the younger guys, has really captured Browns fans' attention these last 2-ish weeks, I would say.
To me, he's a dreamboat. Well, I mean, what hair, what jawline.
He does have nice hair.
I mean, just good for him. Ashley, when it comes to the Stefanski Mayfield melodrama, we have more of it. Stefanski takes the job in Atlanta. D'Orlando Ledbetter then puts out a tweet about the failure in Cleveland with quarterbacks. Then Baker Mayfield quote tweets that and takes a shot at Kevin Stefanski that wasn't even thinly veiled. There's no veil on it. It was pretty much just dead to rights.
Yeah.
Where did you land from this latest interaction? More Stefanski or Mayfield?
Well, I pretty much landed, and I just wrote a column about this. Like, it just kind of goes to show, number one, what I said at the top of this, the Browns can never do anything normally. There can never be a normal offseason. The fact that Baker Mayfield was making Browns headlines amid a coaching search in 2026 is just bonkers. But look, I think looking at the tweets, taking them at face value, I think, number one, it shows that relationship was beyond repair by the end of Baker Mayfield's time here. And number two, as far as if Stefanski didn't text him, Obviously, it's a wound for Baker Mayfield still if he is feeling the need to tweet about it almost 4 years later when neither of them are with the Browns anymore. But I'm not surprised by it. Like, I don't think that in that situation, the head coach owes you a text. Like, Baker had requested to be traded, and that relationship had very obviously soured, in my opinion, especially going back to that game in Pittsburgh when Baker called Kevin Stefanski out essentially in his post-game press conference, like right before he said he would talk to his people about his shoulder and decide if he should play in the final game of the year. So, like, there was just a lot that happened. Like, I don't know that he needed to send him a text when the relationship had deteriorated. Baker could have texted him if he really wanted to. But look, I think Baker Mayfield hypes himself up in this way. We've seen it time and time again. He's at his best and his worst, I think, when the moxie comes out. So you have to take it all when you're talking about Baker Mayfield and his personality, I think.
Do you think the NFL cares enough to put Stefanski versus the Browns as week 1 or even give it a primetime assignment, or do you feel like that's not going to be a story for them?
That's a great question, considering the Browns did not have any primetime games this last season. And I don't know, like, with only 5 wins this past year, 3 wins the year before that, I'm like, are we going to see another year where they don't get any primetime slotting for these games? Maybe they'll care enough to make it an early in the season matchup and like a 4:25 start. That would be like my compromise. I'm not ready to for sure say, yeah, this is primetime matchup worthy for them.
All right, I do want to get your take on the weekend's matchups in the conference title rounds, but we have had a couple Donniebrooks on the show about the first picks, the first-round picks the Browns have at 6 and 24. I'm open to the possibilities at 6. Could it be a plucky safety out of Ohio State?
I'm closed-minded here. I need you to know that, Ashley.
Could we be insane with Reuben Bain? I don't know.
I need offensive linemen. I need wide receiver. There's enough of them out there. Go grab one of them.
And so my partner, as you can tell, is very much stuck in one mode. So are you also wide receiver and O-line exclusively at 6 and 24? Are you open to life's possibilities?
You know, you guys kind of laid out the exact option. I am open to a certain safety out of Ohio State. And here's why, JP, I need you to hang with me on this and hang with my explanation.
I'm hanging.
Because I mostly agree with you, right? Like, this team desperately needs pass catchers and offensive linemen. They do. But if Downs is there and he is the best available player, I would argue the one room on your defense that needs some draft help is your safety room. I really think that's like the one area.
Actually, it's great. We can just have another dominant defense and then just, be dead last in offense again this year. It's great.
I mean, look, that's a fair argument, but I think it's all about value at those positions and who all is going to be there and who else you like. Look, I think we know this team can identify good DBs, though. They actually do have a tendency to identify them identify them later in the drafts. Like, Martin Emerson was a third-round pick, obviously, right? So Grant Delpit was a second-round pick. Ronnie Hickman went undrafted, but I do think they still need some help there, and I think if he's good enough and, like, that's the best available guy, we see time and time again them sort of chasing that path. So it'll be interesting, but, I mean, I think if you ask me hypothetically to pick, yeah, I get the offensive line receiver focus, but, I mean, Downs is pretty good. So that's like why I think a lot of Ohio State fans are also obviously open to that idea.
All right, let's get to the conference title round. Seahawks at Rams, Broncos, Patriots. How do you see these two games going this weekend?
Oh, that is such a great question. It's hard for me to pick against the Seahawks after watching their defense, obviously, last week. I mean, my goodness, against the 49ers, who were banged up. But I would guess the 49ers, and obviously I would guess the New England Patriots. I've kind of had this inkling they were going to make it to the Super Bowl anyway, but obviously Bo Nick's out. There's so many questions in Denver. Denver's been in a bunch of one-score games this year that have gone their way. People have been talking about them as a week 1 seed. So I would say we're in for a Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl would be my guess.
Ashley, phenomenal stuff. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you next week and continue to debate JP on this whole Caleb Downs thing.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ashley.
Ashley Bastock, Cleveland.com on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline.